Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number two is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Being willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles.
I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box, in a shell, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born.
The world is my networking event, right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life.
All righty. Well, here I am by myself. Mr. Cameron is going to join us by video shortly, but welcome everybody. Welcome on the show. We're excited to get things rolling, and hopefully, and this is again my first time kind of doing this solo, so I'm going to muddle through this a little bit here, but give me some grace here. But we're going to talk about networking today. It's going to be an amazing show, and we want to hear from what city and state you're from, you're coming in from. We want to hear, we encourage our viewers, our community to network within the comments. So get in the comments, tell us all about, what you do and, who you want to meet and connect with each other like crazy. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. I'm really excited about this show, but so, hey, I want to talk to you now about, as I kind of frame this up for everybody here. I don't know how it is in the rest of the country or the rest of the world, but I do know this, that things are starting to really open up here in the Northeast. In fact, tomorrow I will be doing a keynote on the power of connection as I help kick off a networking meeting and a fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Association. And networking is a skill that I believe anyone can learn. Listen, if this shy, introverted dude can do it, anyone can do it, right? And today, honestly, I could speak to anyone, anytime. Like literally, how do you walk up to someone and break the ice? Question mark, right? I mean, literally, yeah, I could do that now, by the way. What do you say to keep the conversation going? What do you do when the conversation dies out? Making the magic move. And what do you say to get their contact information? And where do you go to invest in your time and to go to meet people and so forth? These are all questions that early on that I struggled with, honestly. In today's episode, we're going to cover all of this. We're going to provide some helpful tips, and we're really going to debunk perhaps some of the myths, some of these urban myths, right? Networking, or what I like to say, connecting, right? Master connector, right? As you can see, right? Shouldn't always be random. All right. Although sometimes it can be, right? It should be intentional. Now, not awkward, but just intentional and purposeful. So if you're ready, all right, community, friends, viewers, if you're ready for Cameron, who's going to come in for a little cameo here, Cameron, pretty cool, to introduce our guest speaker, our an amazing guy here. I want you to type in ready, #ready in the comments right now, community. If you're ready, type in ready, and I'm going to go ahead and do the best I can here to bring Cameron in here to introduce Josh. I hope you guys are ready. So type in ready right now in the comments.
Joshua Meredith is the Director of Career Strategy and Technology at Yeshiva University. Additionally, he runs Hoya Hacks for Georgetown University as an adjunct professor at Yeshiva University, Georgetown University, and Muhlenberg College, a lawyer trained at the Syracuse University College of Law. He has spent years working at universities to teach students networking skills and lives by the saying, always be networking, ABN. Please welcome to the show the legal eagle himself, the maestro of networking, Joshua Meredith.
All right, excellent. There he is. There's the man himself. Welcome to the show, Joshua.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks, Cameron. That was a heck of an intro, so I truly do appreciate that start to the show here. And thank you for having me. It's fun to be here today.
Absolutely. It's funny. I love that ABN thing, right? And I remember, seeing the movie. Oh crap! I'm blanking on the movie.
Glenn Rossi.
Glenn Rossi. That's it, right? Oh, ABC, always be closing, right? And I'm with you, right? ABN, or I changed it myself. I kept it ABC, which is always be connecting, right? So same idea, right? Always be connecting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But all right, community, awesome community. You ready? We're gonna start asking some questions. So if you're ready for us to hear the first question and his response, I want you to go ahead in the comments right now and just type in yes, right? Not a hard word. Just type in the word yes if you're ready to hear from our amazing Joshua as we ask him this first question, which is really this. And we are big in our show here on stories, and so we want to hear, Joshua. We heard a little bit of your professional background and so forth, but tell us your backstory. How does a lawyer and professor become an expert networking, expert networker and expert at networking? Tell us a little bit about that, please, if you don't mind.
Thanks, Steve. I think it's an interesting sort of dynamic in how to really move into becoming someone who networks for potentially your career and teaches networking skills. What's important for me in this regard is really it was really a place for me to be able to meet more individuals so that I could grow my own career. I needed to find something when I moved from the law into higher education. And when I did that, I thought it was important to really get a chance to meet people and really sort of grow my skill set. So I went and I tried to meet as many people in a new industry. I was working mostly in the technology field for the first time. I was based in Washington, D.C. I was working for Georgetown University. I was running some programs and working with students. And I really needed to build my base of sort of contacts and people that I could, one, rely on for information, go to for others, and to really use to sort of grow the programs for my students. And I thought that was a really important sort of starting place for us. And at the time, I had obviously networked as an attorney before, but it was a different type of networking. We were working either to find contacts, as potential clients, or for me to meet other attorneys as I was a young attorney in the field. When I got to Washington, I really honed in and really changed who I was a little bit in order to have a better understanding of how I could use networking to grow for myself and potentially others. And I really thought that mission was important as I was sort of growing my own networking skill. And thus, I learned so much about it in a very short amount of time. And that really propelled me sort of forward. So, Steve, I hope that sort of tells the story a little bit. I ended up using some of those networking skills to do business development, which is something I do for Georgetown still to this day. And that has been very successful. The contacts that I meet often turn into donors and sort of people who are sponsors. And that's been a piece of sort of my work.
That's awesome. No, we appreciate that. And yeah, that definitely that gives us a flavor. I think in the world today, right, where we were, especially in the Northeast, we were locked down for a while. And I think even guys like us, I don't know if you felt this way, but I need to brush off my skills a little bit. I got a little rusty, right? I was, content doing stuff from my Zoom camera and now getting back out there, but it's fun. Listen, again, if there's anyone watching the show that's saying to themselves, like I did, what the heck? Right? Like, I don't like talking to strangers. Listen, I was there, right? I was the guy that was my three best friends growing up. You ready? Ralph Cramden, Oscar Madison, and James T. Kirk, or as a good friend of mine reminded me last night, James Tiberius Kirk, right? The real name from Star Trek. But those are my friends. I didn't have any friends. I'd rather sit in front of a TV than talk to anyone. So I get it if you're a little bit, but this is a great opportunity to pick Joshua's brains, and we're happy to answer any questions. So please make sure you're on here asking questions, put it in the chat, and then we'll get them out to you as well. We'll hopefully answer the questions as best as possible. So, all right, community, are you ready? If you're ready for the next question for Joshua, I'd like you to type in the comments, right? Let's do it. If you're ready for us, I'm going to ask him another question. So please go ahead and put that in the comments right now. Let's do it. Oh, run-on sentence. It's fine. So again, we were talking about this, as I was just saying it, right? A lot of times there are these people that have a lot of charisma, right? And so the question is, Joshua, in your perspective, is networking skills something that you're born with?
So I do think that there is definitely a piece of this that is inherent to some of us. For those, I was also a shy kid, and I also needed to sort of learn sort of the skills of networking. So I think a lot of it can be learned activity. One of the things that Steve, you were mentioning is when we're talking about networking, and over the last few years, it's really moved into somewhat of a virtual space. And I think that's key. One of the things that I've sort of learned, I think, over the last few years is that we have to turn networking from the virtual aspect of it, right? The reaching out on LinkedIn or finding a contact or asking someone for a connection into what is, the real world or personal, interpersonal connection one-on-one. I think that's incredibly important. Those kinds of conversations that can happen over Zoom are great, absolutely. But I do think that face-to-face interaction is something that that can be a learned activity, right? I talk to students about that all the time. Finding an alumni, working with an employer to cultivate sort of a contact, right? Either in some form of virtual space, whether email, LinkedIn, another social media platform, and then really sort of growing that into a face-to-face contact that we can really use to grow our network and really use for our benefit.
Absolutely, for sure. It's great. And I am 100% in agreement with you on this. And that is that and again, I'm going to speak to the young generation. If there's some people, and I'm not trying to say I'm old, but people that are younger than me, okay? In their early 20s, this is the generation that, they were sitting on a couch 3, 4, 5 years ago with their best friend texting each other, right? This is a generation that maybe not so comfortable with getting out there and getting out of social media, but I believe it's a great place to get out. Now, I'm with you, Joshua, I wouldn't mind getting a cup of coffee, but sometimes it's not doable, possible. Maybe they're in Chicago and I'm in, Connecticut, whatever. But at least getting out onto a phone call outside of the platform, getting on a Zoom call, or I like to use the phone call or the Zoom to kind of filter a little bit to see, okay, does it make sense? Maybe the next step will be a coffee, right? I'm doing some business now with a young man who ball of energy, and our initial conversation started out on initially a Zoom call. Then the second, because he's local, was at a coffee shop. And and actually we went back on Zoom, and then now we're seeing each other 2-3 times a week. It seems crazy. So definitely make sure you're out there, and I wholeheartedly agree. Get out of the platform, get into communicating with people, because there's nothing more important, nothing more personal connection is really ideal. Good stuff. All right, so we're going to go to another question here, and before that, we're going to tease our audience with another challenge. If you're ready for the next question for Joshua, I'd like you to go ahead in the comments and type in the word "let's go." Right? It's one word. It's not 2 words. It's "let's go." Right? So put that in the comments. Of course, we love engagement, and I think the feedback of this will, Josh, I don't know if you've been following the show, but our community seems to like it because it's like, okay, I'm not just watching, I'm actually involved and I'm doing stuff with us. So
no, I like that engagement. It definitely allows them to be a part of the show.
Absolutely. So the next question being, how do you walk up to somebody and break the ice, right? I mean, that is, I think, for some people that could be terrifying. Give us a little bit of your perspective on that, and I'll probably chime in as well.
So I think my perspective on that may be a little different from some of the audience here. And the reason I say that is because I'm working with younger students. I'm working with students anywhere from the ages of 17 to 23 years old. Their networking experience is limited. Their experience outside of their community back home, it can be, it's not as diverse as some of professionals that you all may be. One of the things I talk to them, especially students who are shy, is can you develop a persona to do your networking with? And I think that's an incredibly important piece of sort of breaking the ice or making that first sort of statement, right? Going up and saying and introducing yourself. Persona is an incredibly important piece of networking and something I coach students on all the time, right? Students may come up to me and go, I'm really shy. This is not what I'm usually used to doing. And I don't really feel comfortable going up and just shaking someone's hand or saying, hi, I'm Joshua, and I would love to talk to you about XYZ. Finding an ability to sort of like put yourself in almost an out-of-body experience, right? You're not yourself today. You're not Joshua, okay? You're someone else. You're Mr. Meredith, right? In that case, is your ability to sort of calm your fears when to do that is incredibly important. The second thing is one of the things I found, and this was my second tip, but I think we'll talk more about this a little bit later, is trying to work with someone to connect them to something that they also need. Networking, I think, is often incredibly one-sided from our perspective, okay? We come forward and we say to someone, I'm looking for a connection. I'm looking for help with X. Oftentimes, what I often will be look for is, hi, my name's Joshua. I'd love to connect with you to help you in something that you need. Everyone may have, someone may need something specific. Someone may say, hey, it's great to meet you. If I ever do need to help, I'll remember this conversation because you came to me forward with sort of the introduction that you're here to help me and you're not here just for your own personal standpoint.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Great perspective. One of the things I'd like to share, and it took me, honestly, Joshua, it took me a while to get there. And this is for you, young folks, right? I think, there might be a feeling, because I felt this way. I'm young, I'm inexperienced. Mm-hmm. What possibly could I bring to somebody if I'm going to walk up to them and start talking to them? But you got to understand, everybody has value. You need to feel you have incredible value. And I've gotten to a place, and this is not an ego thing. This is not a I'm better than anyone thing. This is just, I feel like I've got tremendous value. And when I walk into the room or when I walk into a conversation, it's going to be better because I'm here, because I have something to bring to the table. And listen, it's not because I have a lot of knowledge, and not because I have 18,000 connections on LinkedIn. It's not because they call me the master connector. It's I've got experience. I've got life experience. It doesn't mean anything if it's 18 years of experience or years of experience that I have. You know what I mean? It's nothing to do with that. It has to do with, we all have whatever we bring to the table, and it's valuable. So know that. The other thing I will say as far as walking up to somebody is anything will do. It doesn't have to be the most exciting, interesting. I've walked up to people and, I thought about it for a while. I came up with this really clever phrase or clever something, and I got a blank stare. And then I've said the stupidest thing, right? Like, hey, nice shoes or whatever. Probably guys don't typically do that, right? I might say, hey, cool kicks if it's sneakers, but probably at a networking event, you're not probably wearing sneakers. Although the new dress shoes are all kind of like look like sneakers now. So maybe, right? But anyway, just break the ice and you'll be surprised. And I find, and our viewers have probably heard me say this before, but it's like, people, in a way, the reactions are a lot like dogs. Okay. And I'm not calling people dogs, but you get one of three reactions, right? You either get the, the wagging the tail, and they want to lick your hand or whatever, and or tail's wagging up fast, or you get the, and they back up a little bit, and the hair on the back of their neck is standing up, right? Or you get the just neutral. They just don't seem to care. They want to be petted, and they walk away.
Yeah. See, Steve, one of the things I think you mentioned about the time aspect that I think is really interesting, and sort of the ability to sort of learn networking, I think is really important. I had a mentor when I really started to grow my networking skills. His name is John Gilroy. He's a professor at Georgetown University. He is a master networker, formerly of Federal News Radio. He has his own podcast. He is really someone in the Washington area that has great sort of networking skills. He taught me some things, including, reaching out to someone and saying, hey, how can I help you? I've then been able to spread his message down the line. For the people here in sort of that are watching the show, I always would encourage you to find someone who's younger to sort of work with, right? Someone who you could potentially teach. I think that is a key thing. Networking is, I think today, now that things are starting to become a little more face-to-face again, it's a tough thing to learn, right? We've all struggled with our persona. We've all struggled with our icebreaker line, or how we're going to get that card or get that contact information. So all of that stuff is, I think, something that you can teach. And I think it's something, if you all sort of think about it, you have some of those skill sets and you can pass that along. I think that's incredibly important. I think secondarily, when we sort of think about, that opener, right, it can be incredibly cheesy. Okay. It's just to get the conversation started. My wife always looks at me because when we're on airplanes, I talk to people. Okay. And she always says, why are you talking to people on airplanes? I said, I have met some really interesting and unique people on airplanes and on trains. I recently, a few years ago, I met the American CEO of a very large automaker on Amtrak. Okay. This is a very important person. And he has an extremely large portfolio. And we've been able to stay in touch a little bit because I met him on a train and I said, hey, that's a really nice watch. And I said, he said, oh, thank you. I said, where'd you get that? And he said, well, I am blah, blah, blah. That's just how I got the watch. And I said, those kinds of icebreakers are incredibly, I think, valuable, sort of when we're starting out and we're trying to sort of move ourselves along. So I think, just for everyone here, something to keep in mind, it can be something simplistic in order to sort of grow your network and sort of build your skill set.
I love that, Joshua. And I just want to comment, shout out here. Leanne, hello, who was part of our network. She chimed in and said, hey, you're absolutely right. I've learned so much from younger people than me. Yes, we are all valuable. And a kiss and hug, I guess, or whatever that X and O means. But good stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. So if our viewers, our community are ready for the next question, because we want to keep this going. And again, we want to encourage people. Our mission is to uplift, inspire, be the light, encourage people. But we also like to equip them, right, with some techniques and some things that they can really take away and use. So if you're ready for the next question, just type in the word now, right now. Type in now if you're ready. All right, we're going to go with the next question here. So, and I kind of peeked at it before. You probably got a little bit of a little preview of it, but we start the conversation. What do we do to keep the conversation going? What would you do to keep it going there, Joshua?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. First of all, there are natural ends to conversations, right? And I think everyone is aware of that. After you've gone through sort of some banter, and then there's some, sort of connections back and forth. I think one of the things that I really try to keep the conversation going is I really do talk about, is there a need that you're either your company or you're personally going through, which could be helpful. I work with a number of people. And networking often occurs, right, for two specific reasons. One, for some form of business development. Okay. So that is natural, right? Is there some kind of connection that I can make to help you grow your business in any way? The second thing I think is interesting is sort of talking about, hey, are you looking for something new? Obviously we've talked about in sort of the last year, the great reshuffling of sort of people within our economy. And I think one of the things that you could say is, hey, would you ever be looking for a new role? Is there somewhere that I could connect you with that could help you to that? Is there some kind of skill which I could, help provide a connection to you for in order to grow that. I think those are the key sort of helping points in making a conversation go. Also, I think sometimes I've said, is there someone else who you've always wanted to meet, right? And I actually did this during a conversation once, because the conversation was dying out. The person was working at a very large, Fortune, 100 bank. And they said to me, I want to meet someone at Google. And I said, I've got a person I can introduce you to. And they said, oh, really? And I said, yes, give me your contact information. We'll make the connection. Just remember, I'm paying it forward to you now. You'll pay it forward to me back later. And I think that's sort of the key things. I think especially when you're really looking at sort of continuing a conversation that's beginning to peter out a little bit, which naturally is going to happen. Steve, I know this was not really part of the question but I think something that I often get is I used to do a lot of networking check-ins, once a quarter, right? So if I hadn't talked to someone in a couple of months, I would connect with them. Now, I think in more of our more virtual world, sometimes I connect with people like once a year now, just, people who are long-term sort of connections. And I think that's actually okay. For someone who's got 18,000 connections like you do on LinkedIn, it'd be impossible. That would take all of your time.
Well, I think to your point, that's the value of, you and Josh, I don't know how old you are, and I'm not asking, but I think we're similar in that sense that we probably were around a little bit before social media. Yep. And so there was not that component. You had to be, reaching out. But now if people are active on LinkedIn and you're active yourself, you can actually continue to be top of mind when you're putting out content on a regular basis, like I like to do, right? So that helps us to kind of stay in touch, be top of mind a little bit. And what I like to do is a technique. I love LinkedIn for this. And, I do it pretty regularly. If, there's a little thing that allows you to click the button where it says, happy, congrats on your job change, congrats on your promotion, happy job anniversary, right? And happy birthday. And you can do those things, and it just gives a little touch. Absolutely. And if I get a response, I respond back. And, and so that's just another way that you can actually kind of connect with people and use the algorithm, right? Someone's going to have an work anniversary, pretty much once a year. So to your point, once a year, but that's one way to keep in contact with people. But I do want to touch on this, which is, I just want to call out Susan Castelli, who's or Susan Lynn Castelli, as she's calling herself here. She said, be curious and you must be interested in the other person. I love that. And that's what you were saying before, Joshua, which is you're talking about asking questions, hey, what's a good connection for you? Are you looking to find a new role? By the way, maybe I'm just not getting around enough, but I love that phrase, the great the reshuffling. I like that instead of because that's probably a better phrase than the one they've been using, right? Which I don't get. The other one doesn't sort of make sense, but reshuffling makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there've been so many boomerang people, right? And I know them in my own life, right? They left a job, then they come back to a job. They go somewhere else. They're there for a few months. They decide they want to go back to the original employer. One of the things that I've noticed in sort of talking to those people, and I have a very, very close friend who recently did this, his connections at the company were the thing that got him to come back, right? He missed some of that. He missed some of the internal networking. Now he works at an extremely large firm with, hundreds of thousands of employees. But with that said, it was those kinds of networking skills that got him back in the door. It's the kind of networking skills that I think will make him successful in his second stint at the company. So that's valuable.
Great stuff. Great stuff. All right. So we're going to dig into this a little bit further. We want to ask a question, and that is, what do you do when the conversation dies down, Joshua? And you said it, right? There's times where maybe that's your time to kind of depart, but what happens at that point in your perspective? So the question is, what do you do as the show's done? Boy, I'll tell you, this went like crazy fast. I was like, how am I going to do this without my man Cameron? How am I going to do this? But it's going really fast. But what do you do when the conversation dies down?
Yeah, so I think there's one thing is you can ask someone what currently projects or struggles they're having. Sometimes there's identification that can happen there, which I find incredibly important. If you can't, right, if there's no way to continue the conversation, I think especially you're at a conference, you're at an event, right, that is for networking. I think it's perfectly okay to say, hey, it was really, really nice to meet you. Here is a business card, or here's a QR code so you can learn more about me on the internet. And I think that is a good piece of sort of how you can sort of end a conversation naturally. Conversations are going to naturally die out if there isn't something for you to really build upon. So, that's a thing I often talk to students about, and sometimes a networking conversation can only be 3 to 5 minutes long, and that's okay. I think people think that, to build a deep connection with someone, it has to be an incredibly long conversation, 8 to 10 minutes. I don't think so. I have a lot of people who I've met once. We've had a 3 to 5 minute conversation. I know their email. I've learned about their families. I've learned about their jobs. They're a close connection. We've spent less than 5 minutes of total FaceTime with one another. And that kind of stuff is sort of how you build. There's got to be, Susan Lynn sort of mentioned that. Keep talking. There'll be something that will connect you. I agree. There will be something, but, don't be afraid if the conversation's logging on too long, for that to be. My final note with this is, I'm often told that one of my better qualities is the ability to work a room. Okay. If you're in a room with a couple of hundred people, a 3 to 5 minute conversation is about as long as you can get in an hour and an hour and a half setting, so you could meet more people. Okay. When I used to go to conferences, I would say to some of my colleagues, I'll see you to the end. Tell me how many cards you got. And I had double or triple the amount of cards as some of my colleagues. And they said, how do you do that? I said, well, I didn't linger, right? I made the connection. We found the commonality point, and I was able to move on, and so were they, right? So a stack of cards this thick, can be done relatively quickly in an hour setting. For those of you who are going to summer conferences, use this time to sort of get those cards. I know people are using QR codes now. As I see Steve have one in the top right corner. QR code is the same thing. Scan the QR code, save them on LinkedIn, follow, send them a quick note.
Yep.
2 sentences, keep moving.
Yeah, what I've learned is the magic is in the follow-up. It's impossible to make a true meaningful relationship in at 3-5 minutes, even if it's 8 or 9 or 10 minutes. So I'm completely in your camp. In fact, the talk I'm going to give tomorrow at this event, I'm going to actually challenge everybody, and we're going to have a contest in the whole room. Who got the most amount of contacts or connections? Going to make it fun and interactive. But we want to kind of squeeze in another question here, and then we're going to kind of close it down. And I want to make sure that you give people the opportunity to figure out how to connect with you the best. But here's the question, right? Making the magic move, right? What do you say to get their contact information? I'm curious to hear what you have to say. I have a take on that, and then why don't you tell us a little bit on your side of that?
Yeah, I think, what is the key sort of driver for me in making the move is, look, here is what I have to offer. Here's what I can do, right? I have 2,000 plus contacts on LinkedIn. It's not the craziest amount ever, but there's maybe someone in that network I can connect you with, right? I work for universities which have young students. I can offer people the ability to get interns or younger staff. In the current economy, that's valuable. I'm often sort of saying to people, here's what I can offer to you. I work at Yeshiva University. We have great, passionate students in a number of different fields. If you're ever looking, right, for anyone, an intern, a young staffer, even an experienced hire, because we have alumni that we can connect you with. Those are sort of the key hallmarks of how I make the close, right? When I'm working on a sort of a business development aspect, I go, hey, I'm looking for sponsors. I don't expect you to commit here today. Just take a look at our materials. I will email them to you. I will follow up with you in a few weeks. If it's something that makes sense, great. If it's not, no hard feelings. That's it, right? I think that's a key sort of metric. If I could leave you all with one final sort of note, networking, I believe, is really a key life skill, right? Networking can happen in a conference, in a large ballroom, right? It can occur at a coffee shop. It can occur on an airplane. It can occur really anywhere. I meet people all the time, and I can end up connecting with them. I have some kind of meaningful sort of networking sort of piece, right? I live by the term, always be networking, right? For people that I know can be helpful to me, I can be helpful to them. That is, I think, a key metric So there you go.
Love that, Joshua. I'm just going to say one thing and then we're going to close it out. We're going to do countdown to crush it here. But you know, it's interesting, right? So number one, I believe if you spend 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes with somebody and you know kind of where they live, you know what they do for work, you know a little bit about their interest. I feel like you made a little mini friendship, right? And it's for me, it's pretty simple and easy. I'll make millions and millions of dollars from this one simple line. It's not complicated. It's not crazy. It's just, hey, we should stay in touch. You know, that's it. Hey, we should stay in touch. And usually I hear, yeah, that'd be great. Again, if you go in there with confidence and you know you're valuable, people will want to know you. So that's important to come to the table with that mentality. And people were like, yeah, you know, I don't think almost ever I've ever heard say, nah, why? Why would I want to stay in touch with you? Especially if they're at a networking event, right? Now, some of the stuff I'm telling you, I've done at like supermarkets and gas stations and coffee shops and just random talking to people, but it's amazing, right? I do it all the time. My goal, as you probably saw in the video, to meet 3 strangers every single day. Now, as we've locked down a little bit, it's been a little more social media based, but it's just it's wild to do it. And you'd be surprised how friendly people are and how open they are to stay in contact, stay in touch with you. So just reach out and say hello. So Joshua, we appreciate you. Thank you, viewers. We appreciate you. Make sure if you're in the comments, you're connecting with each other. If you're watching this on the replay, make sure you type in there #replay so we know you're watching it on the replay, and make sure you share this out to the community, to your friends, your people in your network, because we believe this is a great message and it's a message that's very relevant right now. So what's the best way for our amazing community to reach out to you? I recommend they connect with you. What's the best way for you, Joshua?
Yeah, two great ways to connect with me. You can go on LinkedIn. It's Joshua Meredith JD if you want to just use sort of the top link, or you could search for me, Joshua Meredith. Feel free to email me. It's joshuameredith@gmail.com. It's really simple. Again, Joshua Meredith, MEREDITH @gmail.com. Shoot me an email. I love that. I love sort of connecting with others, having conversation. I may not be able to help you today. I often come back to people months, years later, to sort of help them make the connection that's valuable. I do this for my students. I do this in sort of my life. I think it's a really, really key feature. Remember, and I said this a little bit earlier, we are here for others in addition to ourselves. So that's my sort of thoughts for today. Thanks, Steve.
Awesome. And as you see right down below on the screen, our mission here on this show is to be the light. And if you're in your house, not talking to people, not connecting, that means the light is covered up. So you got to get out there, be the light. Let's inspire people. Let your light shine by being out with people. And we're going to end this show like we always do with a countdown for Crush It. And Joshua, it's a little ritual that we started from sort of the beginning. And basically we're going to count down and then we're going to yell out Crush It. And our community is going to type out Crush It and in all bold caps. And we're going to get people going for the rest of the week. So if you're ready, let's go. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Crush it! All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everyone here. You guys are amazing. Thank you for dealing with us here and living with us. And I'm going to play the video. And by the way, make sure you connect with our amazing sponsors, Sales Connector and our other sponsor. I'm blanking on it right now. Bed Steve. But anyway, I'm going to play the video and we'll see you guys next week. Don't forget, next week, we're going to have an amazing show with Larry Weber, The Power of Purpose, on Wednesday, the 22nd, episode 68. Don't miss it. Go out there, be the light, go crush it. And I'm going to play the video and we'll see you guys soon.
Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number 2 is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Being willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles.
I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box in a shell, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born.
The world is my networking event, right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life.